On a warm weekday morning, when the sun had barely risen above the rooftops and the streets were still wrapped in a sleepy hush, a little girl stood frozen at the edge of a sidewalk. Her backpack hung loosely from her shoulder, her shoes dusty from the walk, and her eyes filled with fear far too heavy for a child her age. Cars rolled past indifferently, people hurried on their routines, and yet she remained there, small, trembling, and overwhelmed. But what truly made the scene unforgettable was the sight behind her, a row of large motorcycles rumbling softly as they lined up near the convenience store across the street. The bikers' leather jackets, heavy boots, and tattooed arms created a sharp contrast to the fragile 7-year-old girl standing alone, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. It was the kind of moment that grabs the world by the throat, a moment where something extraordinary is about to happen, even though no one can tell what it will be. If you believe the world still has good people, if you believe kindness can come from the most unexpected places, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Thread. Your support keeps these real, heart-touching stories alive. As the morning grew brighter, she slowly stepped forward, as though gathering every drop of courage she had left. For days, she had walked to school feeling the weight of fear pressing on her tiny chest, fear of the kids who shoved her near the fence, the cruel whispers that followed her through the hallway, the taunts that painted her as different and alone. She had tried to hide it from her mother, who worked 2 jobs just to keep the household afloat. Each day she told herself she would be brave, that she could handle it. But today, that bravery cracked, and for the first time, she found herself standing in front of a group of strangers who looked as intimidating as the world she was trying to escape. Her heart pounded as she approached them, the distant roar of engines vibrating through the pavement beneath her shoes. The bikers were laughing among themselves, the morning sun catching the glint of metal from their bikes and the patches stitched onto their vests. But when one of them noticed her standing there, wiping at her eyes with the sleeve of her purple hoodie, everything changed. The joking fell silent, the engines were turned off, and all eyes shifted toward the small figure trembling before them. In that moment, she didn't see hardened faces or rough exteriors. She saw people who might actually listen. She took a shaky breath and explained herself, her words tumbling out in a rush of desperation. She had been bullied for weeks, maybe months. She felt unsafe. She felt invisible. And today, she couldn't bring herself to take another step toward school alone. She didn't want money, she didn't want revenge. She just wanted help. She just wanted to feel safe, even for one single day. The air shifted. The bikers exchanged glances, surprised, thoughtful, almost protective. Their leader, a tall, heavily tattooed man with a gray beard and a weary but kind expression, stepped closer. He knelt to meet her at eye level, and though he said nothing aloud, the warmth in his gaze was enough to calm the storm inside her. Behind him, dozens of bikers straightened up, their faces softening as they realized the weight of the moment. What she was asking for wasn't small. She wasn't asking for a ride. She was asking for safety, for comfort, for the feeling of being shielded by someone stronger than the fear that had been haunting her. Within minutes, the loud rumble of engines filled the air again, not with intimidation, but with purpose. The bikers formed a protective semicircle around her, one of them gently lifting her backpack so she didn't have to carry it for the walk. Cars slowed down as they passed, and pedestrians stopped to stare at the unusual sight, a tiny 7-year-old girl walking through her neighborhood surrounded by a convoy of massive motorcycles. But to her, it felt like sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe, truly safe. As they approached the school, curious eyes widened. Teachers stepped out of classrooms, students pressed against windows, and even the bullies who had tormented her froze mid-step. No one dared to whisper their usual insults. No one dared to laugh. Instead, they watched as she took steady steps forward with the entire biker group behind her, their boots echoing on the pavement like a promise that she would never be alone again. Inside her chest, a quiet bravery began to bloom. It wasn't loud or flashy, but it was real. She realized that kind people exist everywhere, often in places we least expect. The bikers didn't threaten anyone, didn't raise their voices, didn't do anything except walk her inside and stand by her side in silent solidarity. And yet, their presence said everything. She matters. She deserves safety. She deserves respect. The news spread around school like wildfire. Teachers approached her with newfound understanding, offering support that had been missing before. Students who had once ignored her gave shy smiles. Even the bullies backed away, suddenly confronted with the reality that their cruelty had consequences, not violent ones, but human ones. The girl's shoulders, once hunched from the weight of fear, finally relaxed. She walked differently now. Not because the bikers were with her, but because she had finally felt seen. When it was time to go home, the bikers were waiting outside, leaning casually against their bikes. Their leader handed her the backpack and assured her that she could call on them anytime she needed. It wasn't a dramatic goodbye. It was simple, genuine, and filled with a quiet promise that compassion doesn't just show up once, it stays with you long after the moment has passed. For the next few weeks, her confidence grew. She made friends. She spoke up in class. She laughed more. And every morning when she walked to school alone, she carried the memory of that day like a shield around her heart. Sometimes, the bikers would wave as they rode by on their morning routes, giving her a reminder that the world wasn't as scary as it once seemed. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share the video. And don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Thread, where we believe kindness can change the world one story at a time. Before you go, comment below, kindness is strength. And remember, sometimes the people who look the toughest are the ones with the biggest hearts.
Che, también me gustó mucho el gol de Costa. La cancha de Boca está vacía igual. Esa es la que no, esa me gustó.
Para tratar de recuperar la pelota Braida que no llega. Se viene Braida, hay falta. Infracción marca el árbitro, tiro libre.
Qué vergüenza que la cancha esté vacía.
Era tiro libre para Boca, se termina la historia aquí en la Bombonera.
Faltan 50 segundos.
Será la última para Boca esta. Pelota larga, la busca Ceballos, viene Ceballos, la domina Ceballos, Ceballos el remate, Ceballos.
Ay, ay,
Directo
ay.
al cuerpo, allí mira cómo
Ay,
se abraza.
ay, ay.
Díaz, Ampuero.
Ay, 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 ay.
La última pelota de Boca.
Esa historia es la que
Paredes.
más me gustó.
Dominando Paredes, la abrió bien, la tiró para Braida. Braida y el centro Braida la pisa.